Happy May the 4th be with you, everybody. I waited until now on purpose to Star Wars Day to rank them all. I wasn't just being lazy because there's so many of them. So, what are we doing today? I'm glad you asked. What's up, guys? It's Pieman, and this is definitely the longest ever 1 minute review ranking video I've done because, well, let's face it, Star Wars is worth it. Star Wars is worth doing all at once, okay? So this is a fandom which has rapidly gained in toxicity ever since the release of Phantom Menace. But somehow the buying of the franchise by Disney, and as some people like to refer to it as, ripping out the still beating heart of the franchise and eating it whole, it's somehow compounded the toxicity in recent years, so it's just getting so much worse every year. Anyway, I've got a lot to get through here, so let's begin. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, there was a young man by the name of Luke Skywalker who dreamed of being a great warrior somewhere far away. Here is my 1 minute review for Star Wars.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
I think the idea of calling this film A New Hope was concocted by people who decided they liked Empire better, trying to make us forget somehow that this film was what started it all. This is Star Wars. Luke Skywalker's aunt and uncle are murdered, and he goes off to join the Rebel Alliance to fight the dark forces of the Empire ruled by the Emperor, and the always, no matter what side of the fandom you're on, no matter where you're at, the always beloved Darth Vader. Say what you want about these films, but this one, besides maybe Rogue One, is the only one that really for me works as a standalone film. It's just, and that's because they didn't know if they were going to get a sequel out of it. It's so self-contained, even though they don't, kill the Empire. Nobody thinks at the end of this film the Empire's gone. But it's such a massive, clear goal destroying the Death Star. It's such a powerful thing. It's made so prevalent throughout the film that you're just kind of like, whoa, that's done. They've done it. They've accomplished their goal. Aces, credits roll. I'm giving this 96 out of 100. It's simply legendary. However, there was no way that was ever going to truly be the end, let's be honest. I think even if the first film had only kind of done, a mediocre amount at the box office, George Lucas still would have found a way to make this sequel happen because it needed to be told, okay? Here is my 1 minute review for Empire Strikes Back.
A big, new, sprawling space adventure in the Star Wars saga, The Empire Strikes Back.
I mean, Hoth. That's one of the best first acts in film history, without a doubt. Luke training with Yoda, if nothing else, gives us the glory of the bad lip reading where Yoda sings about seagulls, which is one of my favourite internet videos of all time. And if this is one of your favourite internet videos of all time, feel free to... No, we don't have time for that. So, obviously, the final reveal, no, I am your father. One of the greatest moments in cinematic history, without a doubt, despite the fact that Vader is the German word for father. He's called Darth Father. This film doesn't just act as a sequel to the first film. It was an announcement that this was going to be one of the greatest franchises in film history. You just knew after watching this. But Empire doesn't work as a standalone film. I can't just sit down and watch Empire. I'd only do that if I'm watching the trilogy. I can just sit down and watch the first Star Wars film. And for that reason alone, I think I slightly, if only slightly, prefer the first film. So I'm giving this one 95 out of 100. It is practically as good, and I understand why people would prefer it. But for me, the other one maybe just sneaks it. And after those shenanigans, it was clear that this trilogy was going to come to an end, okay? So, here's my 1 minute review for Return of the Jedi.
The circle closes. The saga lives on.
Well, it isn't as good, nah. I don't know anybody who thinks Return of the Jedi is the best Star Wars film, okay? Please, if you do think that, let me know in the comments, because that's just stunning to me. I want to know why. Luke is a Jedi now, and I think the black really works well on Mark Hamill. The opening is, again, obviously legendary, okay? You've got Jabba's palace, you've got Leia in the, and then you've got them rescuing Han Solo, almost getting eaten, you've got Boba Fett. It's such a great sequence, okay? After that, well, the film is too long, okay? The stuff on the Death Star with Luke and all, that's awesome. Lando even in the space battle around the Death Star, that's also pretty good stuff. Endor, there's too much on Endor, but as it is, it suffers from I call it the Godfather Part 3 effect, okay? The Godfather Part 3 is a very good film, but everyone just calls it shit. This is the same thing, and I'm giving Return of the Jedi 88 out of 100. And frankly, that should have been it. But it wasn't! George Lucas, in what fans thought at the time was his infinite wisdom, decided that we needed to see what happened before this epic tale, and decided that another trilogy of films was the way to make it happen. So here's my moment of review for The Phantom Menace. I was born in 1997, so fortunately I never suffered the moment of realization in the cinema that Star Wars was being ruined in front of my eyes, though I imagine that the feeling at that exact moment where you realize this film was really that bad was pretty similar to the feeling that you get when you hear the words, somehow Palpatine has returned. We have young Obi-Wan and we have Anakin Skywalker who's very young, too young, why? That guy from Schindler's List is the lead, so how can this go wrong, huh? Ho 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 ho! I'll tell you how. As a kid, I didn't have too much problem with this, okay? I was able to appreciate a lot about it, but rewatching it more recently, there's just so little. There's just so little that I can actually go, yeah, that was a good idea, George. Well done on putting in all those trade negotiations. You know what? A trade blockade is a good plot for a Star Wars film, you know? So I don't think the whole it's for kids is a defense for anybody, and it's definitely not an excuse for Jar Jar fucking Binks. Sorry, I know Ahmed Best gets enough hate because of these films. I'm giving this, 49 out of 100. And it brings me no pleasure to give that to a Star Wars film. It just kept going. Of course it did. The Phantom Menace destroyed at the box office. Critics loved it at the time. That's what bandwagoning is, kids. So, here is my 1 minute review for Attack of the Clones. I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Hashtag Anakin totally used the Force to make Padme fall in love with him, and the entire prequel trilogy is based on a romantic lie. Whoa, that's a long hashtag. I mean, the ending is fine, okay? The battle on Geonosis, with all the Jedi there, the droids, Count Dooku, and then the clones come in, the Clone Wars begin. Great. Here's my thing, and this is something, I know it's a sentiment that's been expressed by a lot of people, but if you did, this is the first film in a trilogy, okay? Alright. Second film was during the Clone Wars, and then third film was Revenge of the Sith. Infinitely better as a trilogy. Because in that case, it could have just focused a lot more on big, epic set-piece battles that didn't involve an army of Gungans. I'm giving this one 54 out of 100. It's better than The Phantom Menace, but, I mean, not by leagues. And so, George just kept falling down the stairs of the prequel trilogy, hoping that the fall at the end wouldn't break his neck. Here's my 1 minute review for Revenge of the Sith. What the fuck, George? It's like you did a great gymnastics routine, flips and all this crazy shit, then you fall off, break both legs, and somehow still stick the landing? It was crippling his storytelling with those first two films, leading into this, which was the actual prequel we needed. Okay, it was nice to, in some way, see Anakin before he really started to turn to the dark side, but this film is where he turns to the dark side, becomes Darth Vader, Emperor rises, clones lead into stormtroopers, that's great, we see the Death Star plans, everything we needed to go into the Star Wars films was in this film. This is how Anakin should be shown turning to the dark side, okay? The stuff in Attack of the Clones was poorly executed, but kind of right in showing us that he could eventually turn, but this film's got it all. The opening sequence against General Grievous, Kenobi against Grievous, Anakin turning to the dark side, killing all the children, Order 66, the final battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan is still my favourite lightsaber duel. I'm giving this 78 out of 100. And that, once more, should have been Star Wars done. But it wasn't, and I know you think we're at Disney times, but first we should talk about the forgotten fun time of the Star Wars universe, the Clone Wars, okay? It should have been a prequel film, instead it was turned into an animated film, then animated series, which is so beloved it's still going on today. What was the actual film like? Here's my 1 minute review for Star Wars The Clone Wars. So here's the thing, I still haven't watched the series, I keep intending to, and now Disney Plus is a thing, I probably will shortly. But I imagine Ahsoka is so beloved because of her kind of development throughout the series, because in this film, she's kind of a little shit, okay? I know she's meant to be, she's Anakin's apprentice, she's meant to be a lot like Anakin, so he goes, alright, I should train her. But she is kind of an annoying, cocky shit throughout this. I didn't really like her that much. I did like the film, okay? This is my first time watching it quite recently, and I did like the film. It is fun. Animated action adventure. I like that Obi-Wan and Anakin resemble the Revenge of the Sith selves, even though that doesn't really make any sense because it's kind of quite near the beginning of the war, surely, isn't it? It works, it's fun, it's action-packed, it's enjoyable, but in my mind it's nothing more, really, than that. I'm giving this 63 out of 100. It just kind of exists. You know, there's no real reason or need for it. Then Disney arrived. Hell, George wasn't doing anything more with the Star Wars films, so why wouldn't somebody else try to make a few billion off of it? It's a smart business decision. What was, in my mind, the stupidest creative decision that any big company has taken in many moons is not to have an actual set story in place for what was going to happen here. Anyway, they decided to start this new sequel trilogy to the originals with both old and new characters. Here is my 1-minute review for Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Just let it in.
I love Rey, at least in this film. She's a great lead, stronger in some ways than Luke ever was. Kylo Ren isn't Darth Vader because he isn't meant to be, okay? He's trying to be, but the character's trying to be. The actor and the writers aren't trying to make him. It's very confusing. This film manages to stand alone a lot like the first film in the original trilogy, which I like about it. I think it works in a lot of ways. I think it's very fun. I think it's very fresh and feels right, you know? You gotta give them a lot of credit for not being all CGI and stuff like that, like the prequels, okay? They learned from George's mistakes in a lot of ways, and this film, I almost like it as much as, like, Return of the Jedi, okay? I think it's really, really well done. I know a lot of people, you know, talk about the difference between which way was right to go, the Rian Johnson newfangled ideas way or the J.J. Abrams tried and tested, this is what Star Wars is way. I agree with J.J. for the most part, at least with this film. I'm giving The Force Awakens 87 out of 100. Only gets worse from here. But we interrupt your sequel trilogy 1-minute reviews for a quick message from our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. I'm kidding, this video isn't sponsored, but it could be. Disney? Still got time to bump up that Rise of Skywalker score before I get to it. Just give me a call. No, we interrupt the sequel trilogy for the first ever non-Skywalker based Star Wars film. Could it really work? I was dubious going into the cinema and drenched when I came out. Here's my 1-minute review for Rogue One.
Save the rebellion! Save the dream!
So there's something very important that at first you don't realize about this film. It took me a while to notice, and I found this great video actually by somebody called Philmento, which explains it very well. I'll link it in the info card or description or something. Basically, the first act of this film is terrible. It's terrible storytelling, it's terrible character work, it's garbage. It's bad. It's really bad. I didn't realize for a while, a few times watching it, how bad it was, but up until the destruction of Jeddah, it's bad. After that, almost impeccable, okay? It's almost a perfect film for 2/3, okay? This film is such an incredible example of willingness to sacrifice oneself for a greater cause in a way that the only sci-fi comparison I could make is Serenity, the film that follows Firefly, because it's, you know, it's a similar kind of, we've seen these characters do all this and now they've just decided, yeah, we're entirely willing to throw our lives away for this. Anyway, I'm giving this 86 out of 100. I just wish I cared about the people in that first act. And now we'll return to your regularly scheduled programming with a film that doesn't even vaguely resemble the first film in the sequel trilogy. Here is my 1-minute review for Star Wars The Last Jedi.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
Oh God. If you don't know, and how could you not, this film was not directed by J.J. Abrams, okay? I don't have a problem with the idea of Rian Johnson coming in and doing something newfangled with Star Wars, okay? Didn't have much of a problem with that. I have a problem with the whole casino thing. Oh yes, I do. Rian was bold in his vision. You have to give him that, okay? But I don't think anyone, Star Wars, what Star Wars is not an incredibly slow chase scene through space that lasts a whole film. That's not what Star Wars is. I liked Rey's story throughout the film. I was fine with it. I didn't really mind, for the most part, how they treated Luke and Kylo, killing Snoke, masterstroke. And then Kylo is the big villain for the next film. That'd be fine. But, Finn, Poe, Holdo, Rose. Bad things. I'm giving this film 73 out of 100. I can still enjoy it as a popcorn flick, but not a huge amount more, really. And once more, we must interrupt our sequel ranking because I decided to do these in the order they were released. My mistake. Disney wanted to make another epic spin-off, but instead they made this. Here's my 1 minute review for Solo, a Star Wars story. Do you know how irritating it is to have to say the Solo film every time I'm talking about this? Bastards, Disney. So we've got a young Han Solo who, before he becomes the sexy Harrison Ford we all know and love, he grew up on the streets. That makes sense. That's good. He escaped the planet and left Emilia Clarke behind. That is good, because Emilia Clarke is great. He learned how to smuggle from Woody Harrelson, and of course he did. Woody Harrelson, I love that little sneakmeister. He betrayed some people, helped out some rebels, but decided not to join them, had to kill his mentor Woody Harrelson, met Chewbacca and Lando, got the Millennium Falcon, made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, right? Great. Much good. Many great action-packed scenes in there. Good stuff. And Darth Maul! It is a very basic style of origin story, Here's how he got the dice. Who cares? Here's how he got the Falcon. That's how we know he got the Falcon already. So I'm giving this 75 out of 100. Very fun. I could watch it anytime, but I'm always going to scream boo at the Darth Maul part. And now we return to your regular schedule for the J.J. Abrams directed finale to all Star Wars. At least that's what Disney in their look at my massive balls, I get to say this is the real end to all Star Wars ever mood get to call it. Here's my 1 minute review for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker.
The Force will be with you.
Always.
This is what you're here for. This is the most controversial film ever. You want to judge me based on what I think about this. It's literally the most divisive thing in the universe, okay? It certainly isn't the finale anyone imagined over at Disney when they started this trilogy, because they didn't imagine any kind of finale when they started this trilogy over at Disney. That is the most, that's the point at which I decide, yes, this is a shameful money grab by Disney more than anything else. It's Disney's fault foremost and first of all, but it is also J.J. Abrams' fault, because we've seen they leaked a script called Star Wars Duel of Fates, which was an alternate version of the film online, and it would have clearly been a lot better. There was no Palpatine. Yes, it's too cheesy, it's too on the nose. This is a giant fleet. How the hell will they ever beat it? Oh, we had that tease at the end of the last film that they couldn't get everyone to come. Okay, on your left, Cap. Here we go. The important thing is that the Skywalker family is dead. Long live the Palpatine family. What? I'm giving this film 74 out of 100. It's not even going to beat the Solo film for me, but it does beat The Last Jedi just about, because I still do prefer the idea of J.J. Abrams, kind of not straying too far from the pack, as opposed to Rian Johnson's crazy new ideas in the middle of a trilogy. And that, at last, is all we have for today, folks. That was a marathon run. If there aren't any other Star Wars films for now, and there aren't any even planned, really, but you can enjoy The Mandalorian. And what's that? Oh god, what? Is that the secret extra 1 minute review buzzer going off? I don't know what that is. It doesn't matter. There was another Star Wars film, if you stretch the definition to something that exists. Here is my 1 minute review for the Star Wars Holiday Special. Oh god. Oh god, I can't believe I subjected my eyes to this. Anybody who's got a problem with any of the prequel films or sequel films or Solo or anything has got to go and watch this before they complain about how bad Star Wars is now. Because it could be way worse back in the day when they were in the middle of making these films. This followed Chewbacca and Han Solo trying to get around an Imperial blockade to get to Chewbacca's home planet so he could spend some Wookiee holiday festival with his family. And instead of following them, or Luke and Leia, who are also in it, on their journey to try and get to the planet, for the most part, this is about... It's just about Chewbacca's family waiting for him. It's infinitely worse than any of the other films. I'd rather play Jar Jar Binks in a stage production of The Phantom Menace than watch this again. It's so bad. It's just shit. It's so bad. I'm giving this 15 out of 100. It causes me so much pain to give anything that low a score. And at last, I'm out. I'm done. Dear Lord, 13 movies in one video. I'm wiped out, guys. I need a break. I might go watch the original trilogy and drink enough to forget that anything came after it, or in the middle of it, like that one. See, just let me know what comments you, let me know in the comment, what other franchises you want 1 minute reviewed together like this, and just keep in mind how terribly long this video was before you make a suggestion for, like, I don't know, all of the Pokemon films, there's like 20, or all the Scooby-Doo films, there's like 40, you know?